Hello, welcome back to another episode of learning to tie-dye and making mistakes along the way. That's actually one of the best parts about tie-dyeing is it's fairly forgiving, and most people won't know if you've intended to make a design or it just happened to turn out that way. So we have 100% cotton white t-shirt. Make sure your shirts are 100% cotton. It's how the dyes work. The Procyon MX dyes. You can pick them up online anywhere, really. And this shirt was soaked in soda ash, which helps the dyes react with the cotton fibers. And I soaked it for about 20 minutes. And then, actually, I soaked it for about 45 minutes, if I'm being honest. And then I put it on a spin cycle. I didn't rinse it, so it's still fairly damp and ready for folding and tying, and then we will dye it after that. And today I think I'm going to just try another spiral design. So before we get into that, what I'd like to do is find the center of this shirt. And the easiest way to do that is to line everything up, fold it in half, line up my side seams, line up my shoulders, everything nice and even. And then that will give us a center line down the middle of the shirt. And I will just mark it with a washable marker in a moment. We're going to do the front and the back as a spiral pattern today. And then I'd like to maybe come over toward just coming off the armpit roughly of the shirt. And I'm going to put a little dot here. This is washable marker. The washable marker will rinse clean. And then we can open our shirt, flatten it out again. Okay. So we have the center of our shirt. Last time what I did is I put my finger in the middle of the design, and then I turned the shirt around my finger. Today, I actually have a pair of locking pliers. And what I'm going to try is actually locking these onto the shirt and then turning them to create the spiral in the middle. So we're going to do that right in the spot where we started. I'm going to pinch this up. And I'll put on my locking pliers. From here, what I'm going to do, hopefully this is going to give us a slightly tighter spiral than what I had tried before. I can already see it's working a little bit better. So as we spiral, you'll see these nice little peaks forming around the shirt. And keeping them loose, we can bring them into the center. So the more of them there are, the cooler your design is going to be. So yes, I would say that is one of the things that I've already learned is don't spiral the shirt around your finger. Find a pair of locking tweezers or locking pliers and use those and then spiral that from the middle. And it looks like it's making a really tight, cool spiral with lots of pleats already. I don't want any of them to be too high, so I'm just kind of straightening them out, pulling them down if necessary, but it's looking great. As we get into the sleeves and the collar, keep it, if you don't want it all one color, fold it down, because essentially the peaks and the valleys are what form the variance in the texture in a spiral shirt. So don't let any of them climb up individually too much. Help them form their spiral. All right, this is looking tons better than what I did before. So I will take that away as a learning. What I recommend at this point is that you hold it in place with some elastics. I have a bunch of different elastics. You want them to be fairly tight around here. So let's get that in without losing any of the spirals. So I'm going to try to cross over that center point. These pleats, I want to have them as straight as possible. It's looking pretty good though. So I'm using smaller elastics here. and just going under the shirt, trying to hold in these loose ends. You'll see like this tail right there. I want to hold that nicely against the shirt. So, get that tail in. And these types of shirts are pretty good to do on a day where you have one intricate design and then one less intricate design, or one that only takes a few minutes. I also tied up a mandala this morning, so it's that one definitely took me some time. So it's kind of nice to have another shirt that you can do in only a few minutes. I'm putting lots of elastics around this to keep it fairly tight. And then after this step, I'm going to go mix up some dyes. All right. So there we have it. I'm going to remove these now. So we have a nice tight spiral ready for dyeing. And this one should be pretty cool. We are ready to dye up our spiral design. If you remember, there's our design. We have a rack. Underneath the rack, we have a cookie sheet. Underneath the cookie sheet, we have an old garbage bag just to keep everything clean. I've mixed up 3 dyes for today. This is a jet black Procyon MX dye from Jacquard. This is actually a red. This came from a kit that I got where there was 3 colors: a magenta, and this is a marine violet or purple. So we have purple, red, and black today. When you do spiral designs, what you can do is come straight out from the center, and then when it's unrolled, you will get a good visual design. Everything will kind of swirl from there. So what we're going to do using these 3 colors is we're going to go probably pretty bright with the red. We'll fill in some sections with the purple, and then black. Not too much black on this one. Interestingly enough, I have this piece of paper towel, and I've been using this to clean up some of the dye that's spilt from another shirt. So you can kind of get an idea of how these colors are going to work together. Will be kind of neat. So let's get started. We'll take the red. We're going to go straight into the middle. This one will be heavy on the red and the purple probably, and then we'll use some black for shadows and other textures in here. So I'm going to just get this kind of close to the center, and we're going to do pie shapes coming out from here. We'll flip it, and we'll join these up as well. These go all the way down. The other side of the spiral is down here. So we're going to just make sure that this goes all the way, soaking all the way through. Make sure you get the edges, and we're fully saturating this shirt here with the red dye. It will give us the brightest colors afterward. Okay, now we're going to switch over to the purple. So the red, you can see. Okay, so we're going with marine violet now for much of the other section here. So we want them to be fairly saturated, which is why I'm going over these again. You can even stick the nozzle deeper into the folds just to make sure that these dyes are going through your fabric. The tighter your designs are, the more you may need to do this. I kind of like how the red is meeting in the middle there, nice and clean, so I won't get too close to that right now. And then we have just a couple small sections left for the black that we're going to add in here. Perfect. Okay, then last but not least, we have our jet black. We won't need a ton of this, so we're just going to put it in this last white section here. Anything that's visibly white. There's still going to be a little bit of white in the interior of the shirt, but this pulls out. This makes sure that there's not too much. Give that a moment to kind of fall through the fabric, and we'll flip it. There's just a little bit on this side. There we go. Looks like I have a couple ounces of dye left over. If you have any tips on what to do with extra dye at the end of a dye like this, let me know. I'd love to get some pro tips from all of you. So there it is, all dyed up. Get ready for the reveal. We're gonna put it in a Ziploc bag and seal it up. And we'll check back in 24 hours for the rinse, and stay tuned.